With complete disregard for the existing laws in any country he goes to, Smoky just wishes to fulfill his need for speed. In England, even stopping off to the side of the road will get you busted. The penalties for a speed violation are very severe here, considered a felony conviction or even imprisonment. And Smoky wants to do a 200-mile-per-hour run. We tried to stop him, but off he went.
This is the story of the man who turned a Toyota Supra into a legend and got banned from an entire country for it. What you just watched made him an international legend. But to understand what happened, we need to go back to where it all started, to a farm in northern Japan, and to the unlikely journey of a mechanic who became obsessed with speed. This is how a quiet farm boy named Smoky Nagata became Japan's fastest outlaw. Smoky Nagata was born in 1964 on the island of Hokkaido, the northernmost region of Japan. His parents worked a farm surrounded by snow-covered mountains. It was quiet, traditional, about as far from the world of high-performance cars as you could possibly get. But Smoky's father had a secret passion. He loved driving fast, and from the moment Smoky was old enough to peer over the dashboard, he fell in love with that feeling. By 14, Smoky was driving the family farm truck. At 15, he'd saved enough money to buy his first car, a beat-up Mitsubishi Galant GTO that barely ran. A neighbor who worked as a technician at the local Toyota dealership saw something in the kid. They worked together to get the car running. The first thing Smoky did was drive it to school, which immediately got him expelled because driving at 15 was illegal. But that Toyota technician saw potential. He convinced the dealership to hire Smoky as a mechanic. At 16 years old, Smoky became the youngest employee in the entire company. For 2 years, he absorbed everything: how engines worked, how to make cars faster. But Hokkaido didn't have a racing scene. There was nowhere to test his skills, nowhere to prove what he was learning. So at 18, Smoky packed everything he owned and moved 800 miles south to Tokyo. No money, no connections, just an obsession with speed and a belief that somehow he'd find his way into the racing world. He got a job at Trust, the company that would later become famous for the Grainy performance parts brand. They put him in the packaging department 10 hours a day, putting exhausts and turbochargers into boxes. It was mind-numbing work, but Smoky had a plan. After everyone went home, he'd sneak over to the racing division and offer to help the mechanics. And slowly, Smoky started working on his own projects in secret building cars for top speed, making parts that didn't exist yet, creating things that were faster than anything Trust was officially producing. Eventually, his bosses found out. They weren't happy about it, but they also recognized that Smoky had genuine talent. So they made an unofficial deal: keep working your day job and we'll look the other way while you build whatever you want after hours. That's where the name came from, Top Secret, because everything Smoky was creating had to stay hidden from his employers, and the timing couldn't have been more perfect. This was the early 1990s. Japan was in the middle of an automotive golden age. The Mazda RX-7 had just launched with its twin-turbo rotary engine. The Toyota Supra arrived with the legendary 2JZ inline 6. The Nissan Skyline GTR brought all-wheel drive and advanced electronics. These weren't just sports cars, they were engineering masterpieces that could be modified to levels nobody had seen before. The Japanese tuning industry exploded around one obsession: top speed. Who could build the fastest car? Who could hit 300 kilometers per hour? Who could dominate the Wangan, the Bayshore Route Expressway connecting Tokyo to Yokohama, 70 kilometers of mostly straight highway that emptied out after midnight. And on that highway, in the middle of the night, the most elite street racers in Japan were gathering. They had a name: the Midnight Club, and they operated by rules that separated them from every other racing crew in the country. To join, your car had to be capable of hitting 160 miles per hour minimum, but in actual races, members regularly exceeded 200 miles per hour, and they had to maintain those speeds for 15 minutes or more without the car falling apart. That meant every build had to be engineered for reliability, reinforced chassis, advanced cooling systems, aerodynamic modifications, everything optimized for sustained high speed. The membership process was brutal. 1 full year as an apprentice, attend every single meeting, and meetings weren't advertised. Members were wanted criminals. Locations were communicated through coded messages in newspaper classified ads that only members could decode. Only 10% of apprentices ever became full members. The club had one absolute rule: never endanger civilians. The cars they built were insane. Modified Nissan Skylines, Mazda RX-7s, Toyota Supras, Porsche 911 turbos. The most famous was the Blackbird, Chairman Yoshida's purple Porsche 930 Turbo that supposedly cost $2 million to build and could exceed 217 miles per hour. Japanese police were limited by law to about 105 miles per hour. The Midnight Club was running nearly twice that speed. Catching them was virtually impossible. There's a persistent rumor that Smoky Nagata was a member of the Midnight Club. The timeline fits, the philosophy matches, but Smoky himself has always denied it. The truth is, Smoky was running in the same world, following the same code, but building his reputation under his own name. In 1991, Smoky left Trust and founded Top Secret as an official company, a small garage in Chiba, and he started building the car that would change everything a Toyota Supra, but not with the famous 2JZ engine. Smoky ripped that out and installed an RB-26 from the Nissan Skyline GTR. Forged internals, twin turbochargers running 30 psi of boost, over 1,000 horsepower. He called it the 0 to 300 because it shattered records in the 0 to 300 kilometers per hour category. Smoky took that car into Tokyo tunnels at night and filmed himself weaving through traffic at over 200 kilometers per hour. The footage started spreading through Japan's underground car scene. Smoky's reputation grew, but Japan wasn't enough. Smoky wanted the entire world to know what Japanese tuning shops could accomplish, and in 1998, an opportunity arrived. A British magazine called Max Power, one of the biggest modified car publications in Europe, invited Smoky to bring a car to a motor show in the UK. Smoky shipped his gold Supra to England. He brought a film crew from the Japanese magazine option to document everything. And somewhere during that trip, someone suggested an idea that would change Smoky's life forever. Let's find out how fast this thing can actually go on a public road and film the whole thing. Smoky had to return to Japan briefly for drag racing season, but he came back to the UK in November with one goal: hit 200 miles per hour on a British motorway and prove that Japanese tuning could compete with anything in the world. They chose a section of the A1M motorway north of London. Wide, flat, straight, and at 4 a.m. on a Wednesday morning in early November, completely empty multiple cameras were mounted to the car. And at exactly 4 a.m. on November 4th, 1998, Smoky pulled his Supra onto the shoulder of the highway. What happened next became one of the most infamous moments in automotive history. Smoky rolled into the middle lane and stopped the car completely. Then he dropped the clutch and did a massive burnout in the middle of the motorway. Tire smoke filled the air. Then he launched. The Supra accelerated violently. The speedometer climbed 100 miles per hour, 120, 140, 160. But on the first run, the engine started running lean. Smoky backed off immediately. They made adjustments, tried again. On the second run, something else went wrong. At 190 miles per hour, the hood started rattling. The aerodynamic forces were trying to rip it off the car. Smoky backed off again. More adjustments, third run. Everything held together. The engine screamed. The turbo spooled. The Supra hit 194 miles per hour, just 6 miles per hour short of Smoky's goal, but still the fastest speed ever recorded on a British public highway. And then Smoky saw blue lights in his mirror. West Yorkshire police had been watching the entire thing. They'd clocked him at 194 miles per hour and immediately began pursuit. But there was no dramatic chase. Smoky didn't run. He slowed down calmly and pulled over. The police arrested him on the spot. The Supra was impounded, and Smoky spent the night in a holding cell. The next morning presented a problem. Smoky didn't speak English. Nobody at the police station spoke Japanese. They had to find a translator and arrange legal representation. The magistrate's court hearing happened that same afternoon. Smoky's defense was almost comedic in its simplicity. He claimed that he'd simply accelerated to a high speed. There happened to be cameramen present, pure coincidence. The court wasn't convinced, but they also didn't throw the book at him. Smoky was fined £155, roughly $250. His international driver's license was suspended, and he received a 10-year ban from entering the United Kingdom. No prison time. Just pay the fine and leave. Smoky was convinced his career was over. He expected to return to Japan in disgrace, expected his clients to abandon Top Secret. The exact opposite happened. By the time Smoky reached his hotel the next morning, the story had exploded across every major newspaper in the UK. The Japanese media picked it up immediately. American car magazines followed. And the grainy footage from the cameras mounted on the Supra started spreading across the internet. This was 1998, before YouTube, before social media platforms. But the video went viral anyway, shared through car forums, email chains, and automotive websites. Smoky Nagata became an international celebrity overnight. He'd broken a world record on a public road. He'd proven that a small independent tuning shop in Japan could build a car that performed at levels nobody thought possible. Top Secret's business exploded. Orders came in from around the world. Smoky's arrest wasn't a disaster. It was the greatest marketing achievement in Japanese tuning history. After the UK incident, Smoky sold that RB-swapped Supra to a prince in Dubai, but he immediately started planning something even more ambitious. Toyota had discontinued the Supra in 2002 without announcing a successor. For Smoky, this felt like a betrayal. The Supra was one of the greatest platforms in automotive history, so Smoky decided to build Toyota's successor himself. He started with a 1998 Supra as the base. Then he did something nobody had ever attempted. He ripped out the 2JZ inline-6 engine and replaced it with a V12 from the Toyota Century, a luxury limousine built for Japanese executives. The stock engine produced 276 horsepower, smooth and reliable, but nowhere near powerful enough for what Smoky envisioned. He completely rebuilt it. Forged pistons, forged connecting rods, custom camshafts. Then he added twin HKS ball-bearing turbochargers, a wet-shot nitrous oxide system, 2 separate engine control units to manage everything. The result was 930 horsepower and 745 pound-feet of torque. Installing a V12 into a car designed for an inline-6 was borderline insane. Smoky had to manipulate every millimeter of space in the engine bay, custom motor mounts, custom cooling systems, custom exhaust routing. Everything was fabricated from scratch. He paired the engine with a Getrag V16 1/6-speed manual transmission because the stock gearbox would have disintegrated under that kind of power. Then he painted it in Top Secret's signature gold. In 2008, Smoky took that car to the Nardò ring in southern Italy. It's a 7.8-mile circular test track with banked corners, specifically designed for high-speed testing. Smoky wanted to hit 249 miles per hour. He fell short of that goal, but he still set a record of 222.6 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest street-legal Supras ever built. That V12 Supra became legendary. It won the 2007 Tokyo Auto Salon Championship. It appeared in magazines around the world, and it proved Smoky's core philosophy that a small independent shop with the right engineering approach could outperform major automotive manufacturers. Top Secret expanded into every form of motorsport: drift racing, drag racing, time attack, circuit racing. Ryuji Miki won the 2004 D1 Grand Prix Drift Championship. Driving a top secret Nissan, Sylvia Smoky built an all-wheel drive Nissan 350Z with an RB-26 engine swap specifically for the Pikes Peak hill climb and finished at the top of his class. And throughout all of it, Smoky never stopped doing high-speed runs. He hit 212 miles per hour on the German Autobahn. He hit 197 miles per hour in the UK after his ban expired. He documented everything and released it through magazines and DVDs. The footage kept spreading. The legend kept growing. The hunt for Smoky Nagata wasn't a dramatic police pursuit with helicopters and roadblocks. It was one arrest in the UK in 1998 that resulted in a small fine and a travel ban. Japanese authorities never seriously pursued him despite countless illegal runs documented on video. Part of that was timing, part of it was skill, part of it was that Smoky genuinely never put civilians at risk. But mostly it was because Smoky's stunts served a larger purpose. They proved that Japanese engineering could compete with anyone in the world. They turned small independent shops into internationally recognized brands. They inspired an entire industry. The hunt ended before it really began. But the legend just kept accelerating. So what do you think? Was Smoky Nagata a visionary who elevated Japanese tuning culture to the world stage? Or was he a reckless criminal who simply got lucky he never killed anyone? Was the Midnight Club an elite organization that turned street racing into an art form? Or were they just lawbreakers with fast cars? The answer probably lies somewhere in between. But what's undeniable is that both Smoky and the Midnight Club achieved something remarkable. They pushed automotive engineering to places it had never been. They followed codes stricter than most professional racing series, and they did it while somehow avoiding the catastrophic endings that usually come with stories like this. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more videos about the people who pushed automotive culture past every reasonable limit, hit that subscribe button because the next one's coming fast.